Jorge Torres Jr., a 42-year-old resident of Winter Park, Florida, tragically lost his life under bizarre and horrifying circumstances on February 24, 2020. His girlfriend, Sarah Boone, claimed his death was the result of a playful game gone terribly wrong. However, the investigation that followed revealed shocking evidence suggesting a darker narrative. The couple's tumultuous relationship was riddled with allegations of domestic violence on both sides. Torres had been arrested 4 times for alleged battery against Boone, with Boone bailing him out on each occasion. Boone herself was arrested in July 2018 for alleged battery by strangulation against Torres, though the charges were later dismissed. Their relationship seemed to be a volatile cycle of conflict and reconciliation, culminating in tragedy. Sarah Boone, then 42 years old, was arrested for second-degree murder the day after Torres's death. In a case that captured national attention, Boone was convicted on October 25, 2024, and sentenced to life in prison without parole. This case gained additional notoriety due to Boone's unusual legal journey, which included 8 different attorneys withdrawing from her case, her hand-drawn plea for legal representation, and the damning video evidence found on her phone. Welcome to the Grim Files. In today's episode, we'll dive deep into the chaotic relationship between Jorge Torres Jr. and Sarah Boone, the events leading to his tragic death, and the dramatic trial that followed. So grab your snacks, settle in, and let's uncover the chilling story of Jorge Torres and Sarah Boone. Jorge Torres Jr. and Sarah Boone's relationship was far from stable. Their 6-year-long partnership was punctuated by repeated instances of domestic violence. Torres, a father of 3, had been arrested 4 times for alleged battery against Boone. Despite these incidents, Boone repeatedly bailed him out of jail, demonstrating a pattern of conflict followed by reconciliation. In July 2018, Boone herself was arrested for alleged battery by strangulation against Torres during a domestic dispute in which both parties were detained. However, Boone's charges were dismissed, adding a layer of complexity to their volatile dynamic. Friends and neighbors described the couple's relationship as one filled with tension and frequent arguments. Despite their shared history of conflict, they continued to live together in Winter Park, Florida, attempting to maintain their relationship. These repeated incidents of violence painted a troubling picture of an unhealthy and potentially dangerous relationship. The underlying tension and unresolved issues between Torres and Boone set the stage for the devastating events of February 2020. On February 24, 2020, Sarah Boone called 911 to report that her boyfriend, Jorge Torres Jr., was dead. Boone claimed that the events leading to his death began innocently, stating that the two had shared a single bottle of wine and decided to engage in a playful game of hide-and-seek. According to Boone, they thought it would be humorous for Torres to climb into a suitcase, and both were allegedly laughing during the process. Boone asserted that after zipping Torres inside the suitcase, she went upstairs and accidentally fell asleep, leaving Torres trapped inside. Upon waking, she found Torres unresponsive, prompting her call to emergency services. Torres's death was later ruled a homicide. When first responders arrived, Boone appeared cooperative and willingly handed over her phone to forensic investigators during the on-site investigation. A search of the phone revealed 2 chilling videos recorded the night before. The footage painted a far more sinister picture of the events. In the videos, Torres could be heard pleading for help, repeatedly stating, "I can't breathe," while trapped inside the suitcase. Boone, however, appeared to mock him, laughing and taunting him with statements such as, "That's what you do when you choke me," and "That's what I feel like when you cheat on me." The tone of the videos starkly contradicted Boone's initial claims of playful behavior, instead suggesting a deliberate act of cruelty. The following day, Boone was brought in for questioning by detectives at the police department. During the interview, Boone insisted she had no recollection of recording the videos, maintaining that her actions were unintentional. Despite her claims, the evidence on her phone and the circumstances surrounding Torres's death raised serious questions about her account of events and her state of mind that evening. This combination of conflicting narratives and damning video evidence became a pivotal aspect of the investigation, leading to Boone's arrest and subsequent charges of second-degree murder. Sarah Boone faced charges of second-degree murder for the death of Jorge Torres Jr. and was held without bail at the Orange County Jail. The legal proceedings surrounding Boone's case were fraught with complications, as a total of 8 attorneys who initially represented her ultimately withdrew from the case. 7 of these attorneys were court-appointed, but their withdrawal, coupled with Boone's difficulties in working with legal counsel, led Judge Michael Cranick to rule that she had forfeited her right to court-appointed representation. Boone's efforts to secure legal assistance took an unusual turn. On July 18, 2024, during a hearing in which she was representing herself, Boone submitted a letter to the court. The letter included a hand-drawn advertisement seeking legal representation. The drawing, described as an unconventional plea for help, was widely circulated by media outlets covering the case. This unexpected publicity eventually led attorney James Owens to take on Boone's defense. Owens entered negotiations with state prosecutors to explore a potential plea agreement. Prosecutors offered Boone a reduced charge of manslaughter in exchange for a 15-year prison sentence. However, Boone rejected the plea deal, choosing instead to proceed to trial and maintain her defense against the second-degree murder charge. After numerous delays, including one caused by the impact of Hurricane Milton, Boone's trial began on October 14, 2024. The court selected a jury comprising 6 primary jurors and 8 alternates to hear the case. On October 18, 2024, Assistant State Attorney William J. delivered the opening arguments for the prosecution, presenting their case that Boone's actions were intentional and malicious. The defense countered by asserting that Boone was a victim of abuse and suffered from battered woman syndrome, a psychological condition that can develop in individuals subjected to long-term domestic violence. The trial included emotional testimony, forensic evidence, and a review of the videos found on Boone's phone, which played a critical role in shaping the jury's perception of her intent. On October 25, 2024, Assistant State Attorney Dave Cacciatore Jr. began the prosecution's closing arguments, emphasizing the calculated and cruel nature of Boone's actions. The defense maintained that Boone's behavior was a reaction to years of abuse. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning with a guilty verdict for second-degree murder on the same day. Boone's sentencing took place on December 2, 2024. Judge Michael Cranick imposed a sentence of life imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections, without the possibility of parole. The trial marked the conclusion of a high-profile case that had garnered significant media attention due to its shocking details and the dramatic twists throughout the legal process. The story of Jorge Torres Jr. and Sarah Boone is a tragic reminder of the devastating impact that toxic and abusive relationships can have. Their tumultuous history, marked by repeated cycles of violence and reconciliation, ultimately culminated in an unthinkable act that ended a life and left many questions in its wake. Sarah Boone's actions, captured in haunting video evidence, and her unusual legal journey kept the public's attention riveted, but at the core of this case lies the tragic loss of a father, a loved one, and a human being. Jorge Torres Jr. left behind family and friends who continue to grapple with the pain of his absence, and his story serves as a somber cautionary tale about the importance of addressing and escaping cycles of domestic violence. Here goes our first case. Hope you all are enjoying this little true crime marathon. If you do, please like the video, subscribe, and let me know what you think about this type of content. Let's now jump into the next case. The next case we'll look into is the disappearance and murder of Gannon Stauch. Gannon Stauch was an American boy who was murdered by his stepmother, Letitia Hardin, then named Stauch, in Colorado Springs, Colorado. His disappearance and death received national attention and sparked a massive search effort involving multiple law enforcement agencies and volunteers. His stepmother was arrested and convicted of first-degree murder and other charges, and sentenced to life in prison without parole. On January 27, 2020, 11-year-old Gannon Stauch was reported missing by his stepmother, Letitia Stauch, in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Letitia told the El Paso County Sheriff's Office that Gannon had left their home between 3:15 p.m. and 4 p.m. to walk to a friend's house but never returned. Initially, authorities classified Gannon's case as a juvenile runaway, suggesting he may have left on his own accord. However, as new evidence came to light 3 days later, the case was reclassified as a missing or endangered person, signaling growing concerns about the boy's safety. The search for Gannon quickly escalated into a massive operation involving local, state, and federal resources. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office led the effort, supported by the FBI Child Abduction Rapid Deployment (CARD) team, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Colorado Springs Police Department. Thousands of hours were dedicated to combing through leads, tips from the public, and physical evidence. Search teams utilized advanced technology, including drones and helicopters, and relied on ground teams with trained search dogs, horses, and divers. Volunteers and law enforcement scoured parks, trails, reservoirs, and other areas of interest near the Stauch family home. Meanwhile, Gannon's biological parents, Albert Stauch and Landon Hyatt, made emotional public appeals for his safe return, expressing gratitude to the community for its support during the grueling search. Despite these efforts, no trace of Gannon was found for nearly 2 months. The heartbreaking case drew national attention as the mystery surrounding the boy's disappearance deepened. On March 2, 2020, Leticia Stauch was arrested in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, nearly 1,500 miles from the family's home. She faced multiple charges, including first-degree murder of a child by a person in a position of trust, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with physical evidence. Authorities extradited Leticia back to Colorado, where she was held without bond in the El Paso County Jail. The arrest affidavit, made public on May 5, 2020, detailed a chilling sequence of events that unfolded on the day Gannon went missing. Investigators alleged that Leticia killed Gannon in his bedroom, stabbing him 18 times, striking him in the head with an object, and shooting him with a handgun. Afterward, she meticulously cleaned the crime scene to conceal evidence. Gannon's body was placed in a suitcase, which Leticia initially hid in a remote area near Colorado Springs. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's security camera played a pivotal role in the investigation. The footage captured Leticia leaving the family home with Gannon in her truck around 10:15 a.m. Investigators believe she returned home alone at approximately 2:19 p.m., contradicting her claims that Gannon had left the house to visit a friend. Leticia's behavior in the aftermath of Gannon's disappearance raised further suspicions. She lied to investigators about her whereabouts and provided conflicting accounts of her actions on the day Gannon vanished. She claimed Gannon was unwell and stayed home from school, while also stating that she had taken him to various locations throughout the day. The case took a devastating turn on March 17, 2020, when Gannon's remains were discovered under the Escambia Bay Bridge in Pace, Florida, by a maintenance worker. The discovery, over 1,300 miles away from Colorado, shocked the public. Investigators determined that Leticia had transported Gannon's body to Florida in a rented van after retrieving it from the initial dumping site in Colorado. An autopsy revealed that Gannon died from a combination of blunt force trauma, sharp force injuries, and a gunshot wound. The evidence, coupled with Leticia's inconsistent statements, solidified the case against her. Leticia Stauch pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, claiming that she suffered from dissociative identity disorder, due to childhood sexual abuse. In addition to this defense, she made baseless accusations against her husband, Albert Stauch, alleging that he was involved in Gannon's death and had ties to drug cartels and human trafficking rings. These claims were dismissed by the court as unfounded. Psychological evaluations at a state mental hospital deemed Leticia competent to stand trial, refuting her claims of insanity. The court proceedings, which spanned over 3 years, were marked by delays, including one caused by Hurricane Milton. Leticia's trial began on April 3, 2023, after numerous pretrial hearings. The prosecution presented a strong case, supported by forensic evidence, testimony from Gannon's biological father, and accounts from Leticia's former employers, family, and investigators. A key piece of evidence was the surveillance footage, which contradicted Letitia's timeline of events, as well as the detailed findings from the autopsy. The defense called only one witness, Dr. Dorothy Otno-Lewis, a controversial psychiatrist specializing in dissociative identity disorder. Dr. Lewis argued that Letitia's actions stemmed from psychological trauma and her condition. However, the jury rejected this argument, finding the testimony unconvincing in light of the overwhelming evidence presented by the prosecution. On May 8, 2023, after a 5-week trial, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all charges. Letitia was sentenced the same day to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 156 years. Judge Gregory Werner, who presided over the case, described her actions as the most horrific I have ever seen, and emphasized that she deserved the maximum sentence permissible under Colorado law. The trial's conclusion brought some measure of justice for Gannon's grieving family, though the pain of his loss remains immeasurable. The case continues to serve as a grim reminder of the need for vigilance in addressing child abuse and violence within families. Thank you for joining me on the Grim Files. If you found this episode compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into true crime cases. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are your takeaways from this case? Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember to look out for those around you. See you in the next episode.